Inside the Movie Photographer with Jason Boland. Today we've got Film Crew, What's a Grip Do, with my dear buddy, Adam Skully Kuiper. And I'm going to bring Skull in now. Hey, Skull, just gave you a big intro.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Thanks for your time today, Jace.
No worries. So you're one of the few people that are actually working at this time. And I know that you can't mention what it is, but that's really good news that the industry is still happening for a moment.
Yeah, there's obviously very strict conditions to what we can and can't film. So we're filming a section of the film, which is basically all we're allowed to do based on the parameters of the rules. So the rest of the show will be done another time. But for the moment, we're completely exterior. And we're quite isolated in some big fields, is about as much as I can say. So, paperwork's quite intense, and the rules are quite, broad in the spectrum of following what the government requirements are. But for us, being zoned as light industrial, we're able to make this work. But once again, it's shortened the film time, and I'm not sure exactly when the rest of it will be completed, but for now we're happy to have what's offered to us.
That's fantastic news, actually. There's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for everyone, and I see us getting back to work sooner rather than later, to tell you the truth. Hey, let's get straight into it, buddy. You and I have worked on some pretty epic films together. Matrix, San Andreas, and of course the big one, Mad Max. So, quick rundown. You started your career with a legendary grip, Ray Brown, from Australia, originally Scottish, right? Just give us a quick rundown of how you started your career as one of Australia's premier grips.
I started, sorry to cut you off, Jess. I started with a gentleman who gave me the opportunity to enter the film industry called Jeff Full.
Fully, yeah.
Owner-operator of a company called Big Toys. Based in Sydney, obviously set up the East Coast towards the end of before I departed. But I officially joined Ray Brown on Ghost Rider, which I believe was 2005. He approached me to come and join his camp. He was expanding and I had some good guys with him. And I was excited to be asked and to join that. So I took him up on the offer. And we've worked closely together ever since then. And Ray subsequently retired about 5 years ago. And I took over at the time, and 18 months ago decided to complete the bite of the apple and purchase the company from him. So still a very, very close mentor to me. And he's on the phone whenever I need him, if I need him. So I'm very grateful for that. But I've been flying on my own ever since then, and I've got some great guys that work with me, and I've got some new guys that we're training up. So it's been an interesting time, and we're constantly evolving. The virus has slowed what I believe was going to be one of our record years. I'm probably not alone in saying that. Australia-wide industry, I think we're in for a big year, and there was a lot to offer. I think Netflix and some of the Disney and some of the new channels that are appearing, Stan and all those guys, have reinvented our industry, that's for sure. So that's sort of where we're at up until now. And I think your timing for the interview is quite good, Jace, because you're not really taking me away from much else.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna get into it. It's one thing that I want to do on this, and as you know, you're the first guest that I've had on this little channel, and I basically want to go through the crew list and introduce people to what we do as film technicians, especially at the moment when the world is pretty much relying on us for a little bit of sanity, I think, along with the medical staff, and a big shout out to them. But so Skull, I've got a whole bunch of photos, and you sent me in some, and I've got some of my own. Be great if you got time to give us a bit of a give us a bit of a chat on what the rigs are and what's in the photos, and more importantly, this section is what's the film crew do and what's a grip do. So I'm going to bring up a photo now, which is pretty crazy, and I'd just like you to let everyone know what an actual grip does on a film set. Especially the questions like best boy. Now, what's a best boy? Everyone, you must get that question all the time. What's a best boy? So here we go. I'm going to flick up a shot here, and we'll go through a few. There you go. Well, start off for me. That's just carnage, and I'm going to let you go in. But down here, this is my camera's point of view. But underneath it is one of your buggies, which we'll get to in a minute. But under there, you've got a team. You've got a driver, probably Steve-O, and you've got a focus puller, and they're right in the middle of it, mate.
Yeah, so it probably it's hard to see the buggy, but it's definitely there. It would be well and truly discussed before the shot started as to exact positioning distances from where this educated guessing of where the vehicles are going to go. As precise as we are in these films, there's always the unknown. So the vehicle that you can see on the left-hand side is the edge arm. It's a electrically operated crane that's gyro stabilized. It also has a gyro stabilized head on the end of it, and a combination of all that technology gives you a rock solid shot. And the theory is, despite sometimes having smooth shots, in scenes like this doesn't tell the story, but what we do is we give the editors and the post department the cleanest, crispest image we can give them, and let them put the shake into it. So the shake happens
so they
when it needs to
degenerate
happen.
it.
Yeah, because otherwise you get vibrations sometimes when you don't want them.
Yeah.
And with vibration comes blurriness. So we when we can, we give them the best image we can give them, and let them mess it up if they need to, when they need to, so it's not over dialogue or whatever. But getting back to the buggy, and I have no doubt he probably can't see much there, other than know he's probably relying on the sound of the engine to get his speed.
Oh, really?
He does have a readout there, but depending on how much dust, depends on what he can see. But if there is too much dust on the rehearsal, rest assured we'll send a water truck along. Yeah. And it might just be a light spray, because we still want some dust, but as to the levels of it, that's the deal breaker. And we sit discussing safety at the start. Meanwhile, we're discussing that safety. Guess what's happening? The ground's drying out again. So we have to be very slick at how long we're waiting, how much the ground's drying out, as to know whether we do another run with that truck or not. But all these stunts have been brilliantly executed and well rehearsed, and there was nothing done on set. I said to any of my guys, if they're going to call action and you are not 110% sure of what's going to happen or who's going to go where, we do not go.
Yeah, well, safety is the most important thing on any film set, realistically, and the films that we work on big action films, and that's the first thing, is you got to trust your own instinct, and you've got to trust those around you. And thankfully, things pan out. There's, yes. Anyway, so there's Bretto and Rowan, and is that Mick?
It's a little hard to see on the small screen, but yes. So those boys are on a traditional tracking vehicle, which was, I'm guessing at the time, was a third camera option. Right. Pretty sure it was an additional camera those days from memory. Yeah. And that would have been the vehicle that we used pre-edge arm vehicles, which was the electric gyro stabilized crane we just spoke about on the previous picture. This is how we used to do it before that. There are limitations with this method, obviously, how far we can swing around and stuff, but before the technology was available, this was the way we used to do it. And despite those guys looking like they're having fun, I rest assured, once that vehicle changes direction, those guys are working for their money, holding onto that thing.
Oh yeah, and there's some serious harness rigs going on there as well. It's pretty crazy.
Now this particular picture was for a sequence of transitioning from basically where the truss is on top of the truck was where our stunt guys were harnessed, so they could never ever fall. And the edge arm was getting the coverage of that, which varied from close-ups to wider stuff. Obviously, with the rig, we're quite limited to what we can see, unless they decide they wanted to paint it in post. But let's not forget, the whole reason this film did so well is because there wasn't much of that. We did all our stuff for real.
Yeah.
And that's why this film took so long. And because we didn't cheat. We really did so much stuff for real. And the stunt department spent so much time rehearsing so that this would be safe. And a result of that is the coverage that you see in the film.
It's an astounding film. You know, all the top 10 lists, best film of the decade, best film of the century. You know, it's just nuts. There's the buggy there, right? As you can see, and then as you can see up there, Skull's on a small screen on his phone, but there's my camera up there. So that actually probably would have gone with the first image that I showed you. That would be the shot, I think. Yeah.
So Jace was, one of the more organised stills people that we've worked with, and subsequently, when you're organised and you've got all the bits, you get the good shots. So he made life easy for us, and whenever we could offer up a shot that wasn't in a shot of another one, we would rig Jason's camera, which was remote. And he was very flexible to where we could put it, based on, first of all, actually getting his camera back at the end of the shot. That was another challenge. And not having to pick up the pieces. But so we had some really great angles that camera was able to get, that wasn't in the way of the others. And,
I felt like I was a grip many times. It was.
You felt like you were a grip.
Yeah, it was. You guys have taught me so much over the years with my rigs, and I always say in photography that as a still photographer, you're only as good as the access you get, and you guys gave me every little bit of access that I could, and taught me how to rig it so that I didn't have to take your valuable time. You know, there's a quick turnaround in shots, and then always with safety. And I know that you'd make sure that the boys would lock it off and put a safety and make sure that everything was safe. And man, I do appreciate it, and the help that I get from your department is incredible, which is why I wanted to have you on first up. And hey, so Skull, explain quickly? Well, yeah, quickly, I guess. What does a grip do? What's a grip on a film set and a best boy?
Okay, so a grip, without boring people, is, we grip the cameras, we grip the rigging, but where that all ends up, my theory is what we would put the motion in the picture.
Yeah.
So when the camera's on something that moves, and doesn't always move, by the way, it could be locked off, but ultimately we're the guys responsible for the motion in the picture. So the camera department basically supplies the camera, the lenses, and all the accessories that go on it. And then from what the camera sits on, that falls into our department. So that leads me to, so we'll just run a basic crew out of, without getting into the specialist crew, which you might see on 1 every 5 jobs based on what we're doing. So it's a key grip, which is myself. The best boy grip would become my right-hand man. So there's different roles for him, but depending on the style that the key grip runs. But ultimately, the best boy would liaise with the office, does a little bit of administration, and organises the boys. You do get times where you want an offset best boy. So he would strictly stay in the office and do all that side of it.
Oh, do all the organisation of getting equipment to set and ordered from other countries and stuff like that?
Yeah, so depending on the job, a job like this, for instance, needed an offset best boy. So he does everything that's remote from an office that would be a phone call or an email away. He would deal with transport. He would deal with You know, freight is a big one in countries like this where we need to get stuff in. Most of the stuff came from England that wasn't in the country.
Oh, wow.
And so different departments would handle that, but he's predominantly offset doing that. So onset and offset best boy. Then we move on to dolly grips. So depending on how many cameras, you might have an A, B, and a C camera dolly grip.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do a lot of dollies on this show, but nonetheless, their positions still stay the same, and they work with the A, B, and C cameras.
Right.
There's days where we had, as you know, 8, 9, 10 cameras plus the crash cameras. From that point on, we sort of, it becomes a production line. So even though we've got our top 3 dolly grips, the other boys would get available. All the dolly grips would rig 3 or 4 cameras each.
Yeah, right.
So
wow.
They would move down the chain. It became a production line. Then you've got your head grips, which you call also known as senior grips. And then grip assistants, we could have up to 13 of them. I think between the 2 units on this show, we had over 60 people in the grip department.
Wow.
And then you've got your rigging team. So key riggers, best boy riggers, and that's an entire team, can be big, if not bigger than the original grip team, depending on what you're doing. But we had a substantial rigging team on this job as well. So hence the numbers being multiplied so high.
And they pre-rig, right? So that you can walk onto set pretty much and things are almost ready to go.
Yeah. So because we had so many of the same vehicles, we were able to basically, in a nutshell, pre-rig one, shoot one, and de-rig another. So that was the production line.
Right.
So there'd be a team pulling stuff off, another team putting stuff on while we're shooting. So it was a very, slick way of doing it. It's all great till you get a mechanical issue where you lose one of your vehicles.
Yep.
For whatever time. Sometimes that can be repaired while it's still being rigged, and other times it's basically abort. It's major, and then we would reschedule things to be able to, hopefully jump onto something else and do that. So it was a clever idea having so many vehicles that matched, so we could do that. And
well, here's a classic example here, though, isn't it? It's like we're talking about buggies and tracking vehicles and edge arms. This is one of the vehicles, and you've set it up completely as a camera vehicle.
Yeah, we had a couple that we would blend into the background that looked a little bit Mad Maxy. We originally, the concept was to have them in shot, but that sort of finished pretty early in the piece.
Right.
To be honest, we had so many other beautiful looking cars that Colin Gibson had designed and needed to be shot. So, us hanging in the perimeters out of shot seemed to be the way it was preferred to go. And being a buggy itself, performance was not a problem. Being able to accelerate these other vehicles was not a problem, which really camera cars have to be able to do significantly.
Yeah, right. Good point. You got to accelerate to get into the shot and to get out of a
and
situation.
To get out and swiftly. We don't want to have to be slowing things down because the camera cars just hasn't got enough power or it's overloaded. So we do put a lot of weight on these vehicles, but the vehicles are engineered with certificates to be able to withstand what we're doing.
Yeah.
Occasionally things go a little sour if someone takes a wrong turn and squeezes someone off the road, and we end up in off-road a little bit where things can get shaken around. So obviously we come back and do the necessary checks before that vehicle leaves again to make sure that it is sound.
Yeah, those
once again, if we're in,
amazing, you know, and as long as I mean, your drivers are, they're stunt drivers, they're racing drivers, they're unbelievably well trained behind the wheel, right?
Yeah, I mean, we call them precision drivers, and there's a blend of race backgrounds as well as precisioning. But to keep a vehicle in the dust 4 feet from one in front when you can't see I don't know how many times you've driven in the fog, but it's a scary thing. So these guys are trained to do it, and they do it well. So that's why they're in these driver's seats, and that's why they're trusted by multiple departments to be able to get the shot.
What speeds do the buggy do?
On testing, we had it up to 150 k's, knowing we would never get to that speed. But it was more to make sure that these vehicles stable, how stable they felt at that time, and what we had to do settings wise for the stabilized heads to know where we were running these machines in the way of how much power we had left up our sleeves. So if someone threw a worst case scenario at us, we knew straight away, first of all, the equipment's up to it. Second of all, it's not going to get broken. And third of all, that we didn't have to and ah when the director said we want to do this. We'd say, well, this is what we need to change to be able to do that before the shoot day. So having a crew of hundreds and hundreds of people standing around for 10 minutes at whatever their hourly rates are, you pretty quickly imagine time costs a lot of money. So
crazy,
the testing goes on for quite some time to get this right, but certainly looking down the track, it saves on time on set, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What's happening here, Skull? Looks like you're hailing the king, mate.
I really don't remember. I would say there's a little bit of a show going on for you there, Jace.
Probably. Either that or it's Lady Diana turned up on set.
That's right.
I know you're a big fan. Anyway, So, I mean, you just go through it, and I mean, everything here is grips, grips and lighting. It's two big teams, and you guys. I like to think of the grips as the guys who bring the film to life, or bring the set to life. As you said before, it's you make it dance. I mean, look at this crazy stuff. It's just. That's with the Russian arm. I want to have a quick chat about the edge arm, I should say. They used to be called a Russian arm, and one of the first, right? And weren't they? I don't know whether it's true. Oh, there's you with Johnny Seal, the legendary Johnny Seal, the DP of this film and many others. But wasn't it developed originally for the military? The rigs that are used. I could have this completely wrong.
Look, the technology in these rigs is military equipment. It's got big price tags on it. The gyros, some of the gyros in this equipment, the accuracy is used for firing rockets. But the long and the short of it is, if they fire whatever the range of the rocket is, sometimes when this thing gets there, it's got an accuracy of plus or minus a meter. Now, that is impressive. So, at the end of the day, that missile hits you within a plus or minus a meter. I think the show's over. But the technology to be able to get that thing so accurate is impressive. So, this equipment is loaded with that technology, and hence the price tags of some of this stuff is, that little head on the end of that crane, for instance, is well over $500,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
Let me think at anyone
through to the. Oh, here we go. There you go. That's it there, right?
Yeah. So that package, as you look at it there, it would sit with the dollar at 60 cents. You're probably into $1 million mark with its transporter.
Big bucks, isn't it?
It's big bucks.
Commitment. Big commitment.
It's also a depreciating asset in the fact of, as the years go on, the technology gets outdated. So you're looking to update. So, you need to make sure that this thing works. And more importantly, the maintenance program on these vehicles and the crane equipment is pretty, is pretty full on. So we don't just rely on the vehicle getting serviced once a year. I have a hoist in my workshop. Depending on the job, that car will go on the hoist every single job and get inspected to make sure nothing's come loose or anything like that. The crane gets stripped down once a year completely. Every nut and bolt undone and reassembled and inspected. And I try and do that. You try and do that coming into Christmas time, just generally quietens down a bit, so we've got a little bit of time up our sleeves, and I'll get 2 to 3 guys on that. Takes us about 3.5 days to do it all, and the head's a very similar thing. That's all inspected. That's on a job basis, but once again, backlash in teeth and all that stuff is a full strip down and clean once a year.
Wow.
So if you keep that regime up, the equipment will not let you down. That is for sure. You'd be surprised what you find when you strip that stuff that you didn't notice on set because it was behind another piece of insulation that you know, in time that might have torn a wire out. Now, it may not have injured anybody, but it's certainly the equipment may not be performing to what it should be. So you don't want that to happen on set because it's going to cost time. So, you know, prevention's better than cure, and that's the way we operate.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. And I mean, look, this is just nuts. This is San Andreas, that big set that we had out the back of village there. I mean, it's all going on there. You've got helicopters hanging from the cranes. You've got scissor lifts. It's just absolutely nuts. I see this one everywhere. Now, I'm only ever allowed to use images that are released too, which is I have to go scouring the internet like everyone else. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy what you get up to. Yeah, that's a good use for it too, isn't it? I mean, being able to track through there. Is that your truck?
A scene from Peter. That's one of the group trucks that you'll see on set. There's normally more than one, but that particular scene you just had there was a scene from Peter Rabbit 1, where we had that vehicle down and they wanted a shot under the bridge, so we armed down to look under,
right.
And we managed to achieve that from the equipment that we had set up. So once again, we saved a bit of time, and got the shot. So yeah.
That's amazing. So much stuff going on. You love your cars too. I remember on a few jobs that you and the boys will go and rent some fast little beasts and drive some country roads. I love it. Now, these are the rigs that I like on the bikes. Now, that's just ballistic to me. We use them a lot on the Bond films as well.
Yeah, that's a we don't have a huge market for motorbikes in Australia, but that is my camera bike that's been modified for some mini stabilized heads. We can also hard mount on it. Believe it or not, the hard mount thing kind of looks the coolest because it dutches with the bike, but the technology now there's stabilized heads around that we can actually set up to follow the bike doing that. So that's changed a little bit in the way it's set up for the technology, but that has been re-rigged for some stuff that we did on Peter Rabbit 2, which hasn't been released yet because of COVID. There's a couple of scenes where we don't have a lot of room, so the motorbike was a logical choice. We weren't doing any high-speed stuff, but it was more about being slim and being able to fit down the side of a narrow street.
Right. And like laneways and stuff like that, right?
Particular tool, it's very narrow. So there's the transporter and the ultimate arm going in the back. It travels like that and travels around the country ready to go. When that truck pulls up, we're ready for camera. That's one of the beauties of that machine. So we don't have to build it.
It's very race ready.
Yeah, so we've made that as slick as it can be to save time, and also to be secure. So it's completely safe from the weather and safe from theft and vandalism, and it's all on airbags, so we don't have things rattling loose on long trips.
Oh right! Oh wow! Hey Skull, yes. It's been so much fun having a chat to you, and I know that I had to wind it up by now, and we were going to try for 5 minutes. What's a grip do? But we hit 30 minutes, mate, and you and I can talk underwater, and we always love having a chat. But I got to say, thanks, champ.
Thanks for having me, guys. I hope you enjoyed my speaking, and I hope you learned something. I tried to keep it as simple as possible and use layman's terms, or so to speak, for people that aren't up to speed with film lingo. So I hope that made sense to you all. But appreciate the time, Jason, and I hope to work with you soon.
Yeah, bud. And if we get any more questions, we might have to have you on again. And yeah, Skull, happy days. Have fun at work today, and I will see you soon. See you, bud.
Thanks, guys. Lovely. Bye-bye.
Well, team, so that was Skull. He's there, and I hope you enjoyed number one of our little broadcast here today. And I will speak to you. We'll have another crack and see who we have on next. I don't know, maybe stunt guys or standby props or anything. Anyway, you know the drill. Ring the bell, subscribe if you can. I don't know why I keep saying that, but apparently that's what you're meant to do. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, ciao now.